The National Hot Rod Association presents Championship Drag Racing on ESPN Speed World. The NHRA, the world's largest motorsport sanctioning body, showcasing speeds in excess of 280 miles per hour and covering the quarter-mile distance in less than 5 seconds. Winston Championship Drag Racing from the NHRA. The quest for the $1 million payoff in the Winston Drag Racing Series is at the three-quarters mark. 12 out of 16 National Hot Rod Association events are in the record book. The last race was the biggest and richest of them all, the 34th annual U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis Raceway Park, with over $1.2 million awarded. The Top Fuel final saw the defending champion Joe Amato upset the new car of Gene Snow, which earlier had set the quickest time ever in NHRA competition at a 5-second flat ET. The final race was not a thing of beauty, as Snow had mechanical problems and Amato smoked the tires. The aesthetics didn't matter to the winner, Amato, who extended his lead in the Winston Championship chase. The coveted funny car title was won for a record-setting 4th time by Ed McCulloch. The Hemet, California driver outdrove a Quaker Kenny Bernstein to take the championship, which he first won in 1971. Even though losing, the runner-up finish by Kenny Bernstein moved him to the top of the funny car list in the season-long points chase. In Pro Stock, Bob Glidden could well call Indianapolis Raceway Park his own, as he won the Pro Stock title for the record 9th time. It was easy for Glidden, as his competition, Warren Johnson, left the starting line too soon, causing his disqualification. Winning the U.S. Nationals, Glidden moved even further ahead in his effort to win an unprecedented 9th Winston title. The championship trail now moves to the historic Pennsylvania Dutch Country and the 4th annual Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClellan, and welcome to Maple Grove Raceway near Reading, Pennsylvania. The most unusual aspect of this event thus far has been the weather. Because of the rain, competitors like Warren Johnson were able to make only 2 qualifying attempts. Therefore, with no running on this track yesterday, nobody knew what to expect in the first round. To bring us up to date, here's a recap of that action with my good friend, Steve Evans.
Well, Dave, the race fans are touring the pits now, but earlier today, they saw one heck of a show in round 1 of the professionals. Let's talk about some of the highlights from that. Now, the question mark about the racetrack surface, the traction, well, that was answered almost immediately by Shirley Muldowney. But in a rather unfortunate fashion, a power wheel stand, about as close as she could have come to going over backwards. I talked to her at the far end while the adrenaline was still pumping. Well, Shirley Muldowney was off on a very quick pass. We'll never know what the number was, but some great driving.
I just didn't get on it fast enough, but I didn't realize when it came down that it was going to do the damage to that left front tire again, huh?
The last thing you wanted to do was to have to get off that throttle. You stayed with it.
Yeah, it was, you know, it waited, and then it came up a little bit, and it went back down, and then it really came up. All of a sudden, I saw this blue sky. I couldn't imagine what the heck was going on, Steve.
Sorry to see you have tough luck. Now, in funny car, the number 2 Winston points earner, Mark Oswald, never would have expected to meet number 3, John Force, in the very first round. But that happened because of the lack of qualifying. And what a drag race it was. Mark Oswald winning it, setting a track record. Well, Mark Oswald, low elapsed time in the event for funny cars at 5:40, and you needed every bit of it. What a drag race.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't see John, but this car, it's hard to see the other car, and was bouncing down there. Came real close to the center line. I was a little bit concerned about that, but
what an important race as far as points are concerned. You number 2, he number 3.
Yeah, it definitely was. You know, this is the day for something to happen, and I hope it's for us.
Undefeated still at Maple Grove.
Thank you.
As Mark Oswald and crew headed back to the pits, they thought, boy, what a day this is. Kenny Bernstein breaks right off of the starting line. Well, then they saw his opponent, John Martin, run over some of the timing equipment on the center line, and that means automatic disqualification. So Bernstein, number 1, lives on. And David, as exciting as all that was earlier today, I think it was just the appetizer. The main course is still to come.
Steve, the centerpiece on the menu is Darrell Gwynn, his 300-inch long wheelbase Budweiser special, coming to the starting line in round number 2 of Top Fuel Racing. One interesting note in Top Fuel, as I told you earlier, the range shortened qualifying, and that prevented the quickest car in NHRA competition, Gene Snow, from even making this Keystone Nationals field. Racing against Darrell Gwynn will be David Beineman. He's only been in Top Fuel Racing for a couple of years. This marks his best appearance yet at an NHRA national event. A huge crowd on hand here at Maple Grove Raceway for this 4th annual running of the Keystone Nationals. Darrell Gwynn qualified in the number 2 spot. In his first round race, he defeated Frank Bradley, while David Beineman, who qualified 14th, had the benefit of that wheel stand by Shirley Muldowney to advance him into round number 2. Beineman hoping that the fates will be with him in this race, as Gwynn is the national record holder at a 5.05 second elapsed time. Both drivers rolling their cars forward very slowly into 2 beams of infrared light stretched across the starting line. When both beams are broken by the front wheels, that indicates the starter buster counts. The drivers are ready. He throws the switch. And Darrell Gwynn easily outdistances Beineman. His time, 5.13 seconds. That is an improvement over his first round win, where he had a 5.17. On the starting line, this is Jim Head, a former funny car racer, now in Top Fuel Eliminator, and he is racing the number 1 qualifier, the crowd favorite here in Pennsylvania, Joe Amato at the wheel of the TRW Special. A tire smoking burnout, heating those huge 17-inch wide tires. For both drivers, it is all important that those tires be hot when they leave the starting line. That's what helps give them the traction to put them through the quarter mile in close to 5 seconds flat. Steve?
Well, Darrell Gwynn with a 5.17 in round number 1 and now a 5.13. Darrell, is that about what you had prepared the car to perform?
I'd have to say, yeah, we're taking the conservative approach today, and a 13 we're very happy with. I could really feel in the car the entire way down the racetrack that it was real soft, so I think we've got a lot of room for stepping up here.
Joe's wife, Jerry, backing him up into his own track. The racers try to find the exact spot they did the burnout. That's where the most rubber is built up. It should be the stickiest. Therefore, they should be able to traverse that starting line without losing traction. Amato from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, defeated Gary Ormsby in round number 1, while Jim Head beat Paul Smith. Head has the dubious distinction of racing the hottest driver on the circuit today, and that is Joe Amato. 2 races in a row. He has come home the Top Fuel winner, the North Star Nationals, and the recently completed U.S. Nationals, and he is leading in the Winston points chain. Amato is stayed. And they both smoked the tires. The race here is to see who can recover. It is Amato. Crew Chief Tim Richards not happy with what he saw, but certainly satisfied to take the win to advance his driver, Joe Amato, to the semifinals. The Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals are being brought to you by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference. And by Cram Bendix Auto Life, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive. And by Budweiser, for all you do. This Bud's for you. More Top Fuel Racing coming up next from Reading, Pennsylvania.
Why does the Ford Thunderbird of Pro Stock champion Bob Glidden race on Goodyear Eagles? Exclusively because of the way Goodyear Eagles respond to the track. And why does Ford choose Goodyear Eagle street radials for every new Thunderbird Turbo Coupe? A major reason is the Goodyear Eagle contact patch, where the car ultimately responds to the road. Goodyear Eagles, because there really is a difference.
If you love cars, you'll love AutoWeek, the news weekly of motoring. Every week, AutoWeek puts you inside the world's most exciting cars. GTs, sports sedans, collector cars, 4x4s, front drivers. AutoWeek makes you an insider with industry news, personality profiles, old cars, columnists, the best classified anywhere. And nobody covers racing like AutoWeek. You get the fastest coverage of Formula One, sports cars, stockers, Indy cars. It's all in AutoWeek, the news weekly of motoring every week. Call 1-800-554-3000 to get a full year of AutoWeek at our special discount price. Just $17.25 for 52 issues, only 33 cents a week. You'll save 74% off the newsstand price. Call 1-800-554-3000. Let AutoWeek put you in the driver's seat every week.
Back at the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals, crew chief Dale Armstrong turning the wrenches on Kenny Bernstein's funny car, getting it set for round number 2 racing, which will be coming up in just a few moments. Right now, all eyes are directed to the starting line, where round number 2 racing is underway in Top Fuel Eliminator, and it is Eddie Hill against Frank Hawley. Hawley, driving the Miller High Life Special, has selected the lane nearest the camera. He has the choice of lanes because he has the quicker elapsed time of the 2 cars set in the previous round. In fact, the 5.10 turned in round number 1 is low ET of the meet thus far. Hawley qualified in the number 4 spot and defeated Earl Whiting in that first round race. While Eddie Hill had his problems with the shortened qualifying session, he was able to make it into the field, but only in the number 16 spot, and he beat Jack Ostrander. Even though Hill may have had his problems in qualifying, he was able to find the combination in that first round race. He had a 5.20 second elapsed time. Both drivers concentrating on the start, getting the car set in just the right spot. A tremendous race. And Eddie Hill sets low ET of the meet, 5.06 seconds. His speed, 283 miles an hour. His wife, Hersey, showing the exultation of the moment. There's low ET, 5.06 seconds. This is the quickest side-by-side race in history. Hawley got an ever so slight advantage at the start, but Hill very quickly made that up, and by the time they reached the finish line, Hill had a 5.06 second time. Frank Hawley a losing 5.10.
Well, Eddie Hill, you were just on the winning end of the quickest drag race side-by-side of all times. Your 5.06, his 5.10. What a thriller.
Wow, what a race. That was a race, man. That was a real drag race. That's what drag racing's all about. I mean, I was looking at him the whole way. Frank, your belt didn't fall off that time?
Talking about his glory belt. Frank Hawley in here. The quickest 2 drivers ever to go side-by-side.
Steve, a race like that indicates one thing. There is little difference between the 2 lanes on this Maple Grove racetrack. You're looking at crew chief Kim LaHaye backing her dad into his own track. Dick LaHaye is the reigning Winston champion. He is racing against Dennis Forcell, the oldest rookie in Top Fuel competition. Out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, Forcell qualified in the number 7 spot and beat John Kerry in his first round race, while LaHaye qualified number 3 and defeated Hank Andrews. Dick started this season in championship style, winning the NHRA Winter Nationals, but then he ran into problems. It's only been in the last couple of races that he has regained the performance level that took him to the top of the list last season. And problems for Dennis Forssell, and Dick LaHaye wins with a very competitive 5:13. And Dennis Forssell, with an engine problem kind of late on his parachute, he is headed off the end of the racetrack. Into the gravel bed at the far end, Dennis Forssell brings his dragster to a stop. The emergency crew running to the scene. As we look again, you can see the engine explode. LaHaye streaked across the finish line, and that's when the problems began for Dennis Forssell. He drove it off the end of the racetrack, across a road, and into a pit of gravel designed specifically to slow these cars down. And it did its job magnificently. As Dennis Forssell out of the car, A-OK, no problems whatsoever. Now the crew faced with the chore of getting that race car back out of the gravel pit. LaHaye's win sets up a semifinal pair with Joe Amato. LaHaye having the choice of lanes. The other pair find Eddie Hill having the lane choice over Darrell Gwynn. It's time now for Pro Stock Eliminator. These are the ultimate extensions of the street machines, the street cars you drive every day. This is the Pennzoil Pontiac of Jerry Ekman. Racing against him, another Pontiac Trans Am Firebird driven by Joe Sway. In his first round race from his number 10 qualifying position, Joe Sway defeated Tony Christian, who is currently number 2 in the points chase. Jerry Ekman, number 6 qualifier from Ventura, California, had the advantage of winning by a red light as Kenny Koretsky left the starting line too soon in the first round. One note here, Tony Christian's loss to Joe Sway in the first round certainly opens the door of opportunity to Warren Johnson to advance in the points chase. Johnson will be coming up in a few moments in this round number 2 of Pro Stock. And another red light win for Jerry Ekman. This time Joe Sway couldn't wait. He left the starting line too soon. Ekman advances to the semifinals with a 7.45 second elapsed time. His speed, 185 miles an hour. You can gain a big advantage at the start, but if you try too hard and leave too soon, you lose. This is Lee Dean. He's racing against Nick Nicholas, a contractor out of Jackson Heights, New York. Nicholas drives a Pontiac Trans Am and qualified here in the number 16 spot. Lee Dean, driving the Sterling Brothers Pontiac Trans Am, qualified in the number 12 spot. These highly sophisticated race cars are virtually identical. They've got 500 cubic inch engines under the hood, 2 4-barrel carburetors pumping racing gasoline, and they have a minimum weight limit of 2,350 pounds with the driver on board. And another red light start. Lee Dean could not wait. He left the starting line too soon, and that big red eye shining up there indicates instant disqualification. Nicholas into the semifinals. In the pit area, they're getting Mike Dunn's race car ready for his battle with Kenny Bernstein in the second round. Coming up later, Keystone Nationals.
Stay tuned for the number to call for your free issue of Consumer Reports and your free gifts. How smart a shopper are you when you're faced with all the different models, different features, and different prices?
Almost too many choices. These speakers are detachable.
And what about salespeople?
I get confusing opinions.
Now get the answer before you go shopping in Consumer Reports. Call now for your free issue of Consumer Reports. Then decide. When our bill arrives, pay it and get 11 more issues, 12 in all, for just $18. Or write cancel on the bill, return it, and owe nothing. If you do subscribe, you'll get the Medicine Show and the 1989 Buying Guide issue, all with your paid subscription, and all for just $18. Consumer Reports will make you a smarter shopper, too.
Call toll-free 1-800-544-1000. That's 1-800-544-1000.
Speed. Power. More speed. if it has a motor and goes fast. You'll see it on Speed Week every Thursday night at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN.
At the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals at Maple Grove Raceway near Reading, Pennsylvania, I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans on this cool, somewhat overcast day, lending itself to magnificent performances. In Pro Stock Eliminator, Warren Johnson in the near lane in the AC Delco Oldsmobile has the opportunity to make a big move forward in the Winston Championship chase. He is racing against Harry Scribner. Johnson is trying to overtake Tony Christian in that points chase. Christian is already out of competition. He lost in the first round. Harry Scribner driving his Chevrolet Camaro from Simi Valley, California, qualified in the number 15 spot, while Johnson at the wheel of the Oldsmobile qualified number 3. Both drivers may be exercising just a bit of caution at the starting line. We have already seen 2 red lights leaving the starting line too soon in this round of competition. Scribner in the far lane, Johnson in the near lane. A green light start. Pulls ahead at the finish line. Johnson, a 7.38 second elapsed time. His speed over 187 miles an hour. As we look again, you can see this was a close race from the moment the 2 cars left the starting line. Scribner had a very slight reaction time advantage at the starting line, but Johnson obviously had the horsepower. He pulled up alongside of Scribner at the halfway point, and from that moment on, he just drove away from him until he crossed the finish line nearly a car length ahead. Steve?
Well, if you're going to play in this Pro Stock ballpark, you better be able to average elapsed times kind of like yours, Warren, a 7:38 on that pass.
Well, it's a damn near a fast bracket, no doubt about it. What Harry run?
I think it's in the 40s.
As long as we won, that's all that matters. We're right in the middle of this thing. I think we're in good shape.
On the starting line, our final pair in round number 2 of Pro Stock Eliminator. The burnouts are completed for Larry Morgan at the wheel of the Castrol GTX Oldsmobile. He is racing the toughest competitor of them all in Pro Stock Eliminator. That is Bob Glidden at the wheel of the Motorcraft Ford Thunderbird. As you ride with Glidden with our onboard camera, here's what it is like to test the traction on the starting line. Glidden comes into this race riding the crest of success. He won the U.S. Nationals. He is leading the points chase and is the #1 qualifier here at the Keystone Nationals. Larry Morgan put his Oldsmobile in the number 13 spot and now has got to stop the charge of Glidden. Morgan has got to be thinking about how can I get an advantage at the start. It may be his only chance to defeat Glidden. Glidden pulling the levers, changing gears down the racetrack. And by a car length, he defeats Larry Morgan. Glidden outdrove him on the starting line, outran him on the racetrack, 7.37 seconds. His speed, 187 miles an hour. As we look again, Morgan may have been trying for a hole shot or an advantage off the starting line, but it actually went to Glidden. As they move down track, Glidden's Ford pulled ahead and stayed there. When they crossed the finish line, Bob Glidden had more than a car length advantage over Larry Morgan and moved into the semifinals. His opponent there will be Warren Johnson, who's trying to make a move in the point standings. Glidden has the choice of lanes. The other pair in the semifinal round finds a pair of Pontiacs, Ekman against Nicholas, Jerry Ekman holding the lane choice. It's a family affair in the Dick LaHaye pit area. Dick, along with his daughter, Kim, the crew chief on that race car. His son, Jeff, serving as a crewman. And, of course, his wife, Claudia, tying the entire operation together. This is Roland Leon's Hawaiian Punch funny car, driven by Johnny West. 4,000 horsepower applied to those tires sitting in a puddle of water leaves nothing but a cloud of smoke. At the wheel of the Chief Auto Parts Oldsmobile doing the same burnout procedure as they get ready for round number 2 racing in Funny Car Eliminator. Johnny West out of Chandler, Arizona, drives for Roland Leong. He qualified in the number 8 spot and beat Scott Coletta in the first round. Dale Paldy qualified in the 12th spot, and in his first round race pulled off a big upset when he defeated Don Prudhomme, the number 4 qualifier. It was quite a race. Paldy in the far lane. Prudhomme was in the near lane. It was a big advantage for Paldy off the starting line. He parlayed that into a 5:43 elapsed time to put away Prudhomme. Even though Paldy had a 5:43 with his Oldsmobile in the first round, Johnny West ran even quicker when he defeated Scott Coletta, and that gave West the choice of lanes. He picked the lane nearest the camera. The two cars inching forward, they're set. Paldy again with a big advantage at the start and a big win. Identical 5.45 second elapsed times, but Paldy's starting line reaction pays off and gives him the win, advancing him into the semifinals. Back at the starting line, crew chief Leonard Hughes waiting for the word to start the engine for Mark Oswald. His race next at the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals.
This quick fact is brought to you by Quaker State.
Most people tend to forget about their batteries because the newer models are non-maintenance batteries, but you have to keep the terminals clean. You get away with it in the warm weather, but when it gets cold, the motor oil gets cold, and the engine needs a lot of juice to turn it over. So keep the terminals completely clean. If there's corrosion or it's making bad contact, you might be faced with a jump start, or worse yet, buying a new battery.
Ricky Rudd talks about Quaker State with QSX.
If you're like me, you want your engine to perform. You want it to run clean, and you don't want sludge. That's why you and I both need Quaker State with QSX.
QSX keeps dirt particles in suspension, so they're trapped in your oil filter instead of sludging up your engine.
No other oil runs cleaner or fights sludge better. And the Quaker State I use in my car is the same oil you can buy right off the shelf for your car.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
We're back at the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals at Maple Grove Raceway near Reading, Pennsylvania, right in the middle of Funny Car Eliminator round number 2. Mark Oswald at the wheel of the Motorcraft Thunderbird goes against Eric Reed. This standing room only crowd has been treated to some exciting racing. You just watched Eric Reed and Mark Oswald both do their dry burnout. They found the starting line to be in excellent condition as there was no tire smoke. Eric Reed qualified in the number 7 spot, defeated Dale Barlett in round number 1, while Mark Oswald, as we saw earlier, defeated John Force from his number 3 qualifying position. Reed in the far lane, Oswald in the near lane. And Oswald drives away at the finish line. A new low elapsed time for the meet, 5.39 seconds. His speed over 270 miles an hour. The picture of consistency has been Mark Oswald. This man is still racing today by virtue of a big break. Kenny Bernstein had mechanical problems in the first round. His competition, John Martin, struck some timing lights out in the center of the racetrack. That disqualified him, put Bernstein back into racing, and here he is against Mike Dunn in this round number 2 race. The Oldsmobile-bodied car owned by Joe Pisano holds the speed record for NHRA competition at over 280 miles an hour. Right now, Steve's with Mark Oswald.
Well, the quickest goes even quicker, from a 5:40 to a 5:39, Mark.
Yeah, we were hoping it would. You know, we left things pretty much the same. The racetrack's good, so hopefully we'll do it one more time.
Steve, for Mark Oswald, it's nice to be consistent, even better when you're at the top of the list. Mike Dunn testing the starting line traction, qualified in the number 10 spot. His competition, Kenny Bernstein, has had problems throughout this entire event, but they are nothing compared to the problems that Kenny Bernstein had 1 year ago. On a tune and test run the day before final eliminations, Bernstein exploded exploded his car into a ball of flame. The car came to rest in a wooded, swampy area off the track. Bernstein was okay. The crew rebuilt the car, and he made it back for the final eliminations the next day. This year at Maple Grove, Kenny Bernstein is still an unknown quantity because of a combination of the bad weather during qualifying and Bernstein's mechanical problems. We have yet to see a good run out of the Budweiser Buick. As they approach the starting line, Mike Dunn has got the lane choice advantage. A great start. And Kenny Bernstein wins the race. Identical 5.38 seconds elapsed time. If you carry him out to the thousands, Mike Dunn was actually 4 thousandths of a second quicker, but Kenny Bernstein got the advantage at the start. Watch closely in replay, and you can see Kenny Bernstein in the far lane move just a fraction of a second ahead of Mike Dunn. That was what it took to win this race. As Bernstein and Dunn neared the finish line, they were side by side. At the end of 1,320 feet, there's the margin of victory. How frustrating it is for Mike Dunn to set low ET of the meet and lose his car owner, Joe Pisano, over to comfort him. On the starting line, this is Ed McCulloch. The driver of the Miller High Life Oldsmobile out of Larry Minor Racing in Hemet, California, McCulloch is the most recent winner on the NHRA trail. He won the U.S. Nationals a couple of weeks ago for a record-setting 4th time. This season, he has been in the finals 3 times, winning also the Southern Nationals, and was runner-up at the Mid-South Nationals. The #1 qualifier, McCulloch was to have raced Tim Gross in this second round of competition. However, in his first round race against a red-lighting Chuck Etchells, Gross in the far lane experienced severe internal engine damage. It was so severe he was unable to make the repairs in time to answer the call for the race against McCulloch. Thus, it's a free ride into the semifinals for the U.S. Nationals champ. The question is, will he make a hard run trying for lane choice? On it all the way through the quarter mile, McCulloch runs a 5.42 second elapsed time. His speed, 274 miles an hour. That time, as good as it is not good enough to give him lane choice over Mark Oswald in the semifinals. The other pair finds Kenny Bernstein racing against Dale Baldy, and Bernstein, with his problems apparently solved, has the choice of lanes. Nick LaHaye getting suited up for his semifinal race with Joe Amato. Coming up next at the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals.
You guys aren't supposed to be in here.
Hey, no problem, Honorable Dojo guy.
But this is an import car.
We're the auto lights, guaranteed in any language. Sayonara.
Engine repairs are not cheap, but they may be preventable with Fram WearGuard oil filters. A leading consumer magazine rated Fram best. So pay a few dollars now or a lot later.
Ever tried watching every NFL game? Miss anything? Well, Sunday, see all the key plays from every game on ESPN's NFL Primetime. Week after week, NFL Primetime is football's finest hour with Chris Berman, Pete Axthelm, and Tom Jackson. See it all in one place. NFL Primetime. Sunday nights at 7:15 Eastern on ESPN.
Some 38,000 cheering their favorites on at the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals at Maple Grove Raceway as we're into the final 4 of top fuel eliminator. It will be Joe Amato from Old Port, Pennsylvania. Certainly has got a lot of fans in this crowd. He's in the far lane, racing against the two-time defending champion of the Keystone Nationals, Dick LaHaye. The lane choice in this race went to LaHaye. And LaHaye just pulls it out. A 5.07-second elapsed time. That's the quickest Dick LaHaye has ever run in his life at over 281 miles an hour. Let's watch again in replay. Amato gets a very slight advantage at the start, but that is instantly overcome by LaHaye. At this point on the track, they are even, and they stay that way until the last few feet when LaHaye pulls ahead and stays there for the victory.
You did everything right.
Did everything right. Just exactly what it was supposed to do.
And now, do you leave it alone?
We can't. We can't because it depends on what these guys run.
Joe Amato, what a race with Dick LaHaye.
They're always close. It's a pleasure to lose to someone, a gentleman like Dick.
Okay, now, Darrell Gwynn on the starting line. You've got to hope that Eddie Hill takes care of him.
Yeah, we really hope real big time that he takes care of him. But, you know, it's not over until the fat lady sings.
Okay, Joe Amato, Dick LaHaye, great competitors.
Amato, of course, worrying about his lead in the championship points chase. Jerry Gwynn, the father of Darrell, the crew chief on that car, backing his son up into his own track. The man they're talking about taking care of Darrell is Eddie Hill. His wife, Ursi, plays traffic cop on staging that vehicle in the exact point they want it to be to find the most traction down this quarter mile. Gwynn in the number 2 spot, trying to advance on Joe Amato. To do so, he has got to win this race. Another tremendous race, and Darrell Gwynn moves into the finals. His elapsed time, 5.10 seconds. His speed, 275 miles an hour. The losing time for Eddie Hill was a 5:13. They were almost identical, as you can see in this replay off the starting line. Hill appeared to have a very slight advantage at about the halfway mark. And then on comes Darrell Gwynn. The margin of victory for Gwynn was almost the same as it was for Dick LaHaye. What a race it will be when we come down to the finals. LaHaye with a 5:07, Darrell Gwynn with a 5:10. Steve?
What went through your mind? How did you react when you saw Joe Amato, the points leader, lose?
Well, obviously, Joe's a heck of a racer, and we don't like to see anybody get beat by...
Come on.
Well, you know how that goes, Steve. Anyways, I'll tell you, Joe is not only lucky, but he's an excellent racer. I tend to say lucky a lot of times about Joe, but he's a heck of a racer.
You've got a chance to pick up a total of 400 points here on him if you can win it.
You got it. We're going to try.
The Pro Stock semifinals coming up next.
Today's small cars are tougher than ever on oil. Their high-compression engines not only rev high, they can run hotter than regular small car engines. Their searing heat can begin to break down an oil immediately. That's why there's Castrol, the motor oil that in every grade provides maximum protection against viscosity and thermal breakdown. So use Castrol before your engine does something to get you heated up. Castrol, engineered for today's smaller cars.
Gary Player, international Grand Slam winner and golfing legend.
Hi, I'm Gary Player. There's no swing that's right for everyone, but there is a swing that's right for you. I'm going to help you find it, and we're going to show you the fastest 5 ways to shave strokes off your game. You can have a championship grip and hit through the ball every time. I'll teach you the secrets of the short game. How to lose your fear of sand traps, how to maximize bad lies, and how to play more aggressive golf. Let me coach you to great golf with my new video.
Call 1-800-554-9000 for your 90 minutes of personal instruction from Gary Player. Thousands have sold at $79.95, but for a limited time, you can have Gary Player on golf for just $29.95. Call 1-800-554-9000 or send $29.95 plus $4 shipping and handling to Gary Player, P.O. Box 121, Plainview, Connecticut, 06062.
At the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals at Maple Grove Raceway, this is the semifinals of Pro Stock Eliminator. A pair of Pontiacs. Nick Nicholas in the far lane against Jerry Ekman in the near lane. Nicholas has yet to win his first NHRA national event. The first victory for Ekman came a year ago at the Summer Nationals. And there's Tony Christian congratulating Ekman's partner Bill Orndorff as they advance into the finals. Ekman's elapsed time of 7.43 seconds. On the starting line, it is a pensive Rusty Clinton looking on as his dad Bob does the burnout in that Thunderbird. You're riding with our onboard camera to watch the action inside the race car as Bob Clinton puts it in reverse to back up after his burnout. This race with Warren Johnson, a rematch of the finals at the Nationals. Steve?
Well, Jerry Ekman had to earn that one. His first two opponents red-lighted against him that time. Brilliant shot off the starting line. You had the advantage in a 7:43 to back it up.
Good. That's about time. I knew Nick was going to be ready. He's been doing real well, and I figured if I can get up in the starting line and get a good light, I could win, but you never know in this game. It's really tough, Steve.
Jerry Ekman will be racing either Warren Johnson or Bob Glidden in the finals. At that race at the U.S. Nationals, Warren Johnson left the starting line too soon. He red-lighted. He's got to be thinking about that as Bob Glidden inches into the staging beam. And it is Glidden out first. Bob Glidden goes into the finals with an elapsed time of a 7.34-second run. The time for Warren Johnson, a 7.33 seconds. He wasted it as he was late off the starting line. Jerry Ekman will go against Bob Glidden in the Keystone Nationals Pro Stock Finals. Closing out the excitement of this season will be the upcoming Winston Finals. It's the last weekend in October at Pomona, California. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Steve Evans.
You've got Jerry Ekman in the final. You've got lane choice and seemingly a big performance edge.
You never know from one round to the next. There's no edge. Whoever gets the win light wins the race. That'll be a good race.
We'll be watching.
Is Bob Glidden happy? Looked like a Mike Tyson punch there as he goes into the finals. Coming into the staging lanes, this is Ed McCulloch. We've got final racing in Funny Car next.
No matter what anyone tells you, the Wall Street Journal cannot make you a success overnight. Which is why we suggest a 13-week subscription.
Call 800-372-3000 for this great journal subscription offer. 13 weeks for just $29.75 with a money-back guarantee. 13 weeks, $29.75. Phone 800-372-3000 now for the Wall Street Journal.
Want inside information on football?
I've been reading the sporting news for 12 years now, and when it comes to inside information, this is the next best thing to a coach's meeting. The sporting news, more football facts and stats than any other sports weekly.
Call 1-800-638-1200 and get 55 issues of the sporting news for 4 payments of just $7.50. Call now, 1-800-638-1200. That's 1-800-638-1200.
At the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals, Dick LaHaye's crew is working on this race car. Dick himself underneath that 4,000 horsepower engine, replacing the bearing caps as they get ready for their final race against Darrell Gwynn. On the starting line, it is the semifinal round of Funny Car Eliminator. Dale Puldy in the near lane against Kenny Bernstein in the far lane. Puldy following the directions of his crew chief, Dave Settles. Over on Bernstein's car, a crewman has just finished taping down the escape hatch on the roof of that car. That might be just a little bit disconcerting for Bernstein. Anything that can break concentration is a problem for these drivers. elapsed time. His speed 273 miles an hour. Back-to-back 538 propelled Bernstein into the finals of the Keystone Nationals. Here's the man that's the defending champion, Mark Oswald. Wheeling the Candies and Hughes car based in Houma, Louisiana, Oswald will be racing against Ed McCulloch. Let's go to the far end of the track, and Steve, who's with Kenny Bernstein.
What was the deal? A crewman had to go get some 200-mile-an-hour tape and tape the hatch shut.
Well, we've been doing that every run, Steve, because the wind wants to blow it up. What happened was, while we were so late getting up there, was we stripped the spark plug out, putting plugs in after the motor was all back together, and that's why we were in a thrash to get there. We just barely made it. Guys did a heck of a job.
From the looks of your fire suit and a little grease on your nose, I'd say you were pitching in working too.
Well, I was right there with them. Thanks.
Steve, that's a bit of a first. Bernstein working on the car. Normally, he leaves it up to Dale Armstrong and the crew. Ed McCulloch in the far lane of the track to race against Mark Oswald. The winner here will advance to the finals to race against Kenny Bernstein. But it's going to take a good run to get lane choice, with Bernstein holding a 5.38 second elapsed time. And Ed McCulloch by half a car length. He gets the lane choice. 5.37 seconds. His speed 273 miles an hour. Oswald had the advantage at the start, but as we look again in replay from our finish line camera, McCulloch had the horsepower. This win advances McCulloch into the final round to race against Kenny Bernstein. This is a rematch of the U.S. Nationals just 2 weeks ago, where McCulloch also had the lane choice and won the race. Let's go to Steve.
Lane choice doesn't appear to be a big factor, Ed. You have it with your track record 537.
Well, Steve, you know, we talked about it earlier. I didn't think it was going to play a big part in it. The racetrack on both sides is real good, but if you've got lane choice, if something happens, if it oil down, you've got your choice.
Also, it gives you a chance to stay in the lane you're comfortable with, that you know.
Well, we'll have to see. Bernie's in charge of that. We'll have to see where we're going to stay.
Bernie Federle, the crew chief.
The final rounds coming up next in the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals.
Why do over 35 of the world's best engineered performance cars come with Goodyear Eagle street radials exclusively? A major reason is the Goodyear Eagle contact patch, where the car ultimately meets and responds to the road. So it's no coincidence that Goodyear Eagles are the overwhelming choice of the world's best engineered performance cars. Goodyear Eagles, because there really is a difference.
Maybe you'll be lucky. Maybe you'll just have to replace your connecting rods. But maybe you'll need new valves. Then your bearings and crankshaft could go. Maybe even your rings and pistons. But you can help prevent all this for just a few dollars with a Fram WearGuard oil filter. A leading consumer magazine rated Fram Best. So you can pay a few dollars now or a lot later.
The end of the season is near, and points leader Danny Sullivan fights to keep his lead over Bobby Rahal. The champion Spark Plug 300, Sunday afternoon at 4:30 Eastern, live on ESPN.
At the 4th annual Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals at Maple Grove Raceway, I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and earlier today, we had the final rounds of racing in the Sportsman categories of NHRA Championship Drag Racing. In top alcohol dragster, it was Mike Troxel in the near lane against Jeff Rapp in the far lane. Troxel had to overcome a starting line advantage by Rapp, but he did so in fine style, winning the top alcohol dragster championship by nearly a car length. Pat Austin won the top alcohol funny car title. He also won the U.S. Nationals, as did Steve Ambrose, the winner in competition eliminator. The Superstock champ was Ron Connolly. Matt Rover won Stock Eliminator, and the Super Gas champ, Rob Slavinsky. Right now, we're riding with Bob Glidden as he approaches the starting line for his final race against Jerry Ekman. Glidden's got to be a bit concerned. It was Ekman that put him away at the Winston All-Star race to win the big $30,000 payoff earlier this year. Glidden in the near lane, Ekman in the far lane. The two drivers getting themselves psychologically prepared. Bringing up the RPM on those 500 cubic inch engines. Watch Glidden's left foot. He'll just bump the car into the staging beams. Then the RPMs are up, and Ekman red light. You saw him leave the starting line too soon. Rusty Glidden showing the reaction of the win for his dad, Bob, as Bob Glidden takes home the Keystone Nationals Championship. Rusty, in his exuberance, knocked down his mom, Etta. They are both okay, and Bob Glidden acknowledging for our cameras his championship. The Glidden high five signifying Bob's 65th win. There's the red light by Ekman. He left the starting line too soon. Bob Glidden was the automatic winner at that point. The final now of Funny Car Eliminator, Kenny Bernstein against Ed McCulloch. Earlier, we heard McCulloch talk about the choice of lanes. He has it. He selected the lane the furthest from the camera, the one that he has been running so well in all day long. It's interesting to note that here we are 2 weeks after the U.S. Nationals, and the same two cars meet in the finals. 1 point to remember. At that race, the U.S. Nationals, Bernstein had the performance edge in the finals. McCulloch outdrove him off the starting line. Steve?
Well, mathematically, that doesn't clinch the Winston Championship, but for all practical purposes, you'll be a tough man to catch now, Bob Glidden. Great job.
Well, Steve, thanks a lot. We talked before this round that if there was a chance that we could win this round, it would almost clinch the Winston World Championship, and we feel pretty good right now.
A 7:36 did it.
Well, we thought we would run a little bit quicker than that. I don't know why we didn't, but, you know, that's racing. We won the race.
You bet. And you knew Jerry was going to try to leave on you. He red lighted, but he went all the way through, and you still beat him. So you beat him twice.
Well, I think he actually got to the finish line first, but I knew, hey, Jerry's been almost perfect all day long. He's been a little bit off the pace performance-wise, but, you know, at the Winston race in Atlanta, he left on me 600 or 700 and beat me, so I know how that goes.
To family Glidden, congratulations again.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Bob Glidden, his 65th event title, a stepping stone on the way to a record 9th Winston Championship. Time now for the finals in Funny Car Eliminator. Kenny Bernstein looking on intently as his competition, Ed McCulloch, approaches the starting line. They're both pre-staged. Bernstein into the staging beams first. McCulloch now set. Look at the front wheels on Bernstein's car. And Bernstein wins the race. The elapsed time, 5.36 seconds. McCulloch was quicker with a 5:34. A reversal of what happened at the U.S. Nationals. Bernstein utilizing the starting line advantage and having a wild ride down that racetrack. He was able to corral it and cross the finish line first. As we watch again in replay, pay special attention to the front end on Bernstein's car. At about the halfway mark, the wheels were nearly 2 feet in the air. Bouncing his way down track, Bernstein was able to pull ahead of McCulloch, and by just a few feet, takes home the Funny Car Championship.
The exact reverse of the U.S. Nationals 2 weeks ago. Kenny Bernstein, it was your hole shot. Your 36 beats his 34.
Well, that's super. It was a great race, and we knew we had to do everything right. It's just been one of those weeks. It's been tough, and Ed's a heck of a driver. He did it at Indy and can do it every day. You got to be ready up there.
We weren't in this thing, but it looked to us like it was trying to wheel stand. It was trying to carry the front wheels.
I've never had anything like it, Steve. I'm almost sure at three-quarter racetrack, the front end, all I could see was the sky. There's a bump there, and it bounced it off the ground, but it just wanted to carry the front end all the way down there.
Well, our video verifies that. Again, tremendous job. You really struggle on this one. You're all dirty.
Well, everyone struggled. Dale, the whole crew, they really did a job. You know, like we said before, we never made a run down this quarter mile until today, a race day. That's a tough way to get started. Took everything that the Budweiser Crazy Buick people, Mac Tools, and Planters Peanuts could do, Bloody, but we're in there, and I appreciate it.
Again, congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. Great day.
All the work definitely paying off for Bernstein and crew as he pulls ahead of Mark Oswald in the Winston points chase. This is Dick LaHaye waiting along with Darrell Gwynn for the finals of Top Fuel Eliminator.
Today's small cars are tougher than ever on oil. Their high-compression engines not only rev high, they can run hotter than regular small car engines. Their searing heat can begin to break down an oil immediately. That's why there's Castrol, the motor oil that in every grade provides maximum protection against viscosity and thermal breakdown. So use Castrol before your engine does something to get you heated up. Castrol, engineered for today's smaller cars.
When was the last time you had the kind of car that brings the road alive? Have you driven a Ford? Then you don't know what you're missing. Have you driven a Ford? Driven a Ford? Have you driven a Ford lately?
One race remains at the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals, the finals in Top Fuel Eliminator. Darrell Gwynn getting set to do his dry burnout. This procedure is available to all racers. Gwynn decides he wants to do it. He tests the starting line, finds out if the tires will hold. His competitor, Dick LaHaye, chooses not to do a dry burnout. He feels comfortable with his knowledge of the starting line and its traction. Therefore, he decides not to do the burnout, which could put an extra strain on parts and pieces. His daughter, Kim LaHaye, the crew chief on this car, backing him up into his tracks, trying to find that traction. Earlier, between rounds, Steve had a chance to talk to Kim.
You've seen the frustration of this season on your dad's face. Do you carry a little of that down in the guts as well?
Absolutely. It's probably if we wouldn't have won the World Championship last year, it wouldn't be so frustrating. But being on top as we were last year and winning the World Championship and coming back and not doing so well, struggling here, struggling there, has been very frustrating.
Best of luck in the final.
Thank you, Steve.
That frustration felt this season by the LaHayes could be turned to elation should they be able to defeat this man, Darrell Gwynn. LaHaye, the defending champion for the past 2 seasons on this racetrack, comes into this round the favorite. He had a 5.07 second elapsed time in the semifinals. That compares to the 5:10 for Gwynn. That 5:07 for Dick LaHaye, the quickest time in his career that spans more than 2 decades of competition in Top Fuel Eliminator. They're set. And LaHaye goes up in smoke. Darrell Gwynn wins the race and advances on Joe Amato in the championship points chase. You saw Darrell Gwynn applauding himself in the shutdown area. As we look again in replay, it was a good start, but just a few feet down track, Dick LaHaye's car lost traction. Those huge tires went up in smoke, and at that moment, Darrell Gwynn pulled ahead and stayed ahead. Gwynn's elapsed time, 5.14 seconds, a picture of consistency.
Well, Dave, I think this crew went almost as fast as Darrell himself. They're all here, and it is bedlam. And it's bedlam because Darrell's hopes for his first Winston crown are still alive with 3 races to go.
That's right, Steve. We knew that it would take consistent low numbers to win this race. I didn't have to hold the brake all day. These guys made it great for me all day. After each, you know, you normally pull the starting line and you wait for the run. Well, I wait for the dry burnout because that tells everything about the whole run. And I'm just real excited, and this Bud's for you.
You know, after his 507, I asked LaHaye if he was going to leave it alone. He said, no, you can't these days. He stepped on it, and you saw what happened. You took the conservative approach.
Well, we did. At the same time, this car's been off all weekend, Steve, and we've had to just... I bit the bullet and listened to the entire crew this run, and I did exactly what they said. So I have to take my hats off to the entire Bud crew.
Great job, great crew. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
He could still do it all this year.
Steve, he certainly could. He's coming from the number 3 finishing point last season. The year before that, Darrell Gwynn was second. That's where he stands right now to Joe Amato in the 1988 points chase. Kenny Bernstein has pulled a few hundred points ahead of Mark Oswald. And in Pro Stock, Bob Glidden has extended his lead over Tony Christian. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Maple Grove Raceway. The 1988 NHRA Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals has been brought to you by Fram, Bendix Auto Light, all quality products of Allied Automotive, and by Goodyear.